We got some stuff to talk about when it comes to right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, particularly how is Virginia doing and its finances. As we speak right now, there is a public hearing going on regionally across for our state lawmakers, regionally for a 2-year budget. And for those who are not tuned into that because you're tuned into us right now, there is the opportunity for people to give their public comment as lawmakers in both the state house and Senate are speaking as we are talking here about this budget that is presented by Governor Youngkin. With that happening, we'll try to clue in for that in a little bit, but let's talk about a report that our own Dr. McNab has been working pretty hard on, and you all released it just before the end of the year, looking at the state of the Commonwealth. What were the key findings that you and your center found in terms of how Virginia is doing?
Well, I think the findings of the report are well timed for the inauguration of our new governor and the convening of the General Assembly. We have had a fairly extraordinary run post-COVID in Virginia with regard to state finances. We have run surpluses, significant surpluses, such that 2 governors now have sent rebate checks to Virginian taxpayers. We have in 2024 experienced positive growth in labor markets every month of the year. We entered 2025 in a relatively strong position. The end of 2025, however, is a different type of animal, so to speak. If we look at 2025, we could look at various indicators, but they all end up telling the same story, that the Virginia economy slowed last year. How do we know that? Well, first we could look at the number of Virginians that are at work or looking for work. It's called the labor force. That labor force shrank almost every month in 2025. That is, Virginians left the labor force. They weren't looking for work, they weren't at work. Tens of thousands of Virginians departed the labor force. Virginians said they were less likely to be employed. So the unemployment rate by the end of 2025 was higher than at the beginning of 2025. Unemployment claims were higher every week. Continued unemployment claims, that is, people continuing to receive unemployment, were higher every month in 2025 than 2024. So just from a labor market perspective, you would say that less Virginians were at work, more Virginians were unemployed. If we look at job creation fell in Virginia, so that if you look at 2024, roughly 6,000, 7,000 jobs were being created every month in Virginia. In 2025, it was less than 1,000. And when you think about the size of a state of 8 million people, if you're creating less than 1,000 jobs a month, essentially there is no job growth, right? It's just noise. If we think about why this happened, well, first we could tackle the obvious target. First, federal civilian employment. The latest data we have, and remember, the government shut down in October and November, so we have data through the end of September that's fairly reliable. There were 10,000 fewer federal civilian employees through the end of September. Now, as we've talked before, why is that important? On 1 October, we know that a significant number of federal civilian employees took the fork in the road and took early retirement or resigned for federal civilian employment. That number looks to have been nationwide over 200,000 federal civilian employees. So we would expect when we get data for November and December, we're going to see the unemployment rate in Virginia tick up because a number of federal civilian employees who were employed at the end of September became unemployed on 1 October. And we didn't know that because the federal government shut down on 1 October. So the shutdown kind of made the forecasting glass opaque, right? The second thing is the Port of Virginia, through no fault of its own, has seen the dollar volume of traffic decline in every month of the data in 2025 relative to 2024. What does that mean? You could look at boxes coming through the port, right? The 20-foot containers and count those. But what's really important is what's inside those containers and the value of the goods inside those containers. And so we have data from the government that actually uses the customs bills of lading that calculates the dollar value of trade coming through the port. And what you would like to see is that dollar volume of trade expanding, right? We send more dollars in goods overseas, and yeah, we import things, but that also is used in terms of remanufacturing and consumption in the United States. Well, in 2025, in every month of the data we have so far, the dollar value of trade through the Port of Virginia, whether it's exports or imports, was lower than the same month in 2024, sometimes by double digits. So you might ask, well, what led to that? This is a pretty simple answer, but tariffs. If you think about tariffs, tariffs are an import tax levied at the port of entry. So if somebody brings goods from a country that are tariffed through the Port of Virginia, they have to pay those tariffs at the Port of Virginia and remit them to the U.S. Treasury. Those taxes are then carried through the supply chain and either result in lower profits for businesses or higher prices for consumers. And so, yes, proponents of tariffs will say, look, our tariff revenues were so much higher in 2025 than every previous year. And the answer is correct. Yes, tariff revenues were higher, but those were a tax on American businesses and consumers. So that is a tax that is then paid to the U.S. government and really didn't change the financial position of the U.S. government at all. The end of the fiscal year in 2025, we ended up with roughly the same deficit as we had in 2024, and that deficit is set to increase this year as in part because of the One Big Beautiful Bill. So we have lower federal civilian employment, we have lower trade through the Port of Virginia, and then that combines to slow economic activity in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads, who are two of the three powerhouses of economic growth in the Commonwealth. It's Northern Virginia, which accounts for $1 in every $2 of economic activity in the Commonwealth, and Hampton Roads, which is about $2 of every $10 of economic activity in the Commonwealth. So you throw that all together in the mix, and you should not be surprised that we ended 2025 with fewer Virginians employed, a higher unemployment rate, and weaker prospects for this year.
So just for clarity there, in listening to both of those assessments that you were just giving in terms of just what we saw in the Port of Virginia, but also what we saw in unemployment factors, decisions that were made at the federal level seem to have had the biggest impact on the state of the economy here on our state local level, is
Right.
what I'm hearing from you.
Right. If you think about Virginia, we are distinctive in that we are a relatively large state, right? We're not Texas or California, but we're not North Dakota. More than 8 million Virginians are here. We are in a distinctive relationship with the federal government. Think of Northern Virginia. There are a lot of federal departments and agencies in Northern Virginia. There are military bases in Northern Virginia. A lot of Virginians commute into the district to work. Mm-hmm. Think about Hampton Roads. Think about our naval base here. Think that there's more than 85,000 active duty service members in the region that contribute tens of billions of dollars of economic activity to the regional economy, to the state economy every year. So we have a unique interdependence with the federal government. And if the federal government decides to engage in policies that result in less spending, whether that's through contracts or federal civilian employees in the Commonwealth, and if the federal government engages in policies that reduce trade through the ports in the Commonwealth, that will reduce economic activity statewide as well. There's one more point we have to recognize. The economy in Northern Virginia, unlike the economy of Hampton Roads, is more dependent upon international tourism. And as immigration has come to the forefront of policy discussions at the federal government, we have seen international tourism decline, which again predominantly affects Northern Virginia, but Northern Virginia accounts for $1 out of every $2 of the state's economic activity, which then flows into the coffers in Richmond and gets distributed throughout the state. One way to think about this, what we looked at in the report, the counties that contribute to the state government, that give more than they receive, are predominantly located in Northern Virginia. They are in effect subsidizing the schools and police and roads in other counties of Virginia. And so even if you are, for example, in Southwest Virginia and saying, well, I'm not impacted by trade and I'm not impacted by federal civilian employment, if economic activity slows in Hampton Roads or Northern Virginia or Richmond, and the state has tighter budgets, that affects everybody across the state.
So let me ask you this, because I've just been jotting down so many notes from what you're talking about. Government layoffs, tariffs, immigration, all of that. Essentially, as the federal activity goes, the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, is directly impacted. You laid that out perfectly. So as state lawmakers here, Senate and the House, they're having their meeting, looking over a budget that's in the billions of dollars, obviously, on a variety of different things. Is there anything that you can say, hey, maybe they can do to kind of offset some of the impact that you were seeing in your report over this past year? Things that the state lawmakers might want to focus on and key in on with all the changes that have happened at the federal level.
Well, if I had a magic wand, which I don't, but
we'll find a way.
If I had an ability to craft a state budget, there's short-term and long-term things I would like to see. In the short term, we need to be fiscally prudent. Now is not the time to engage in significant expansion of state programs that result in higher spending. Why? The economy is slowing. We know that we know that federal government policies are likely to restrict our growth in 2026. That is, we're going to grow slower in 2026 unless there's a dramatic change in federal government policy, which means that collections are going to slow to the state, which means that we should budget prudently and be pleasantly surprised if we collect more than we expect, rather than being shocked and having to make mid-year or mid-biennial, right, the second year budget cuts. Second, in crisis is opportunities. We have talked about tax reform in Virginia for a long time, and yet we haven't done it. We have a fairly antiquated tax system. If you look at Virginia's tax system, it's essentially a flat tax. You pay, I think it's 5.75% on every dollar of income past a very low threshold. So most Virginians are essentially paying the same marginal tax rate on every dollar of income they earn. We have a sales tax system that doesn't cover services very well. So digital goods, for example, and other things could be rolled into the base and actually take groceries, for example, out of the base, increasing affordability for Virginians. And then, of course, we have everybody's favorite tax in the world, the car tax, the personal property tax, which localities will now be screaming at me, why am I talking about that? Because that is a good source of revenue for localities. But it's highly unequal across jurisdictions. It depended upon the value of your car, and really brings up an argument why, when you pay for tax of a car at the purchase of sales tax, why then are you being taxed again on that car every year thereafter? And as a taxpayer, it's such a fun thing to get those tax bills every year and go, what the?
When I moved here, it's one of the more confusing things that I experienced in my first year. I had to have someone explain it to me.
Yeah, and that was the same reaction, and I think after 10 years, I still have the same reaction.
Still have the same reaction.
And a lot of what I say cannot be said on live TV. So that's a thorny issue because of the millions upon millions of dollars it generates for localities. But you can't solve this through the state tax system, through either increasing the sales tax or broadening the base of the sales tax, or engaging in income tax reform and then providing those funds to localities as well. So that, I think, would remove a lot of pain from Virginians who feel that they are unfairly taxed through a car tax that if we think about that tax is inherently regressive as well. You're going to pay a higher percentage of your income the poorer you are and own a car. Even if that car is beat up and not worth a much, if you don't have a lot of money, that's still a heck of a tax bill at the end of the day versus somebody who's making six figures. And yes, they have a more expensive car, but they have the capacity to pay that with relatively more ease. Short-term fiscal prudence, long-term, we need to modernize the tax system. Why? North Carolina's done it, South Carolina's done it, and those are states that are competing with us for jobs and private investment. And if we continue to lag behind those states, we will continue to see Virginians leave the state for economic opportunities elsewhere.
And I know we only have you for a few moments more. Thank you so much. Again, if you're just joining us, ODU professor and economic expert Dr. Bob McNab here with us, breaking down a wide variety of topics that we've discussed today. But we're talking about the state of the Commonwealth and you all's recent report there. Were there any positive takeaways that you all found that you said these are good building blocks for us moving on? You just gave some, advice if you had your way for our state lawmakers as they work on this biennial budget. But were there any positive things as you said, we can build on this moving forward as we are expecting new leadership coming here in a few weeks?
Well, think of this as we have challenges, but there's a lot of good things to build upon. Governor Northam, Governor Youngkin have set the table, one might argue, in terms of the investment climate in Virginia. Yes, Virginia has slipped a little bit in terms of the rankings of the best states to do business. We were number 4 in the latest ranking versus number 1 the previous year, but there's year-to-year fluctuations on those things. Many, many, many states would love to be in the top 4.
Absolutely.
We have a fairly robust education system. The state has continued to invest in infrastructure. We have seen large corporations continue to move here. There are a lot of signals that Virginia is a good place to do business. But remember, we're competing against other states to attract firms and jobs here. So we need to really focus upon how do we make our investment climate even better? How do we reduce rules and regulations that stand in the way of housing development? Because at the end of the day, housing development is about affordability, but it's also about job creation. Time and time again, when I have talked with economic development professionals across the state, they say, firms come and they say, I love this place, I love the workforce, I love the higher education institutions. How much is it going to cost for my people to work here? Where's the child care? And once they start hearing the answers to those questions, they go, okay, you're not building any housing. Childcare is just exorbitantly expensive. I can move here, but I'm going to lose my employees. And I remember a conversation with high technology firms in Virginia who said, our problem is not getting employees here for year one. It's when they start having families and they realize they can't buy a home, they can't have childcare, there's no pediatrician, and we lose them in year 3 to 5 after we've invested all that money into them. We can't grow the business because we can't keep our employees here. And I think when the governor talks affordability, she's really going to have to think about how do I work with localities who control the zoning decisions to build housing. Because that's how we're going to tackle the housing crisis, where more than 50% of renters in Virginia are paying more than 30% of their income. Think about that. More than half of Virginians who rent pay more than 30% of their income. And by definition from the U.S. government, makes them what they call cost burden, that they're paying too much as a percent of their income for housing, and so they can't save for a house. They can't buy a new car. They can't invest in their education because the rents are literally, to quote somebody who ran for office in New York City, too damn high.
Economic expert, ODU professor, Dr. Bob McNab, thank you so much for being here, breaking all of that down and sharing your expertise and your thoughts as well. I don't know. I heard that the governor-elect's putting together her transition in next administration. I don't know. But speaking of what you just said, we actually have on 13 News Now Plus right now available to you to watch a sit-down interview that just took place this week with the governor-elect, Abigail Spanberger, who will be sworn into her role in just a week and a half from now. And she talks about what she would like to see within those first 100 days, specifically when it comes to affordability. That interview was done by our Janet Roach. If you would like to check that out in its entirety, it is right here on the app that you can watch anytime that you would like to. Dr. McNab, thank you so much for being here, and I always love having you on. It's always so insightful and sharing what you all found in that report, and I'm glad we were able to end it on a note of looking at how we can build for the future, particularly as we're looking at this new regime coming in a week and a half.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Always great to have you. Okay, so we're going to do this now. From talking about the state of the Commonwealth with its economy, we heard a lot about jobs, unemployment, which means there are a lot of people who are looking to make a pivot, looking to make a switch. And so we actually have with us also today Francina Harrison, who is the career engineer, she calls herself, joining us, who can explain and give some tips on if you are in the market for a new career. If you're looking to make a change, where should you start? Where should you look? How does that process even go about right now? So first, I always say when we have our guest via Zoom, Francina, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. As always, it is great to have you as well. Thank you so much. We just heard a lot from Dr. McNab there when it comes to the state of Virginia. And a lot of people we know have been working through this process of trying to figure out what's next in their careers. From your vantage point, right now, if I'm looking to try something else, to make a pivot, what have been the most in-demand skills and roles that you've seen so far this year?
Yeah. Well, we're in this new year, and some of us are recuperating from all the news and the activity in the labor market from last year. Um, in terms of talking about what's new or what's hot, I'm going to actually take a different approach. I mean, let me give you some facts and numbers. I mean, right now, as of today, I was checking this morning, the unemployment rate for our state is, I think, 3.5%. Nationally, it's 4.6. Last year, 1 million people were laid off. We're still recuperating from that impact of the job world. I mean, the loss in the job world. So what should someone do today if they're looking for a new job? I want you to, before we even get into that, I want folks to understand there's like a little comeback going on. We know AI has changed the game. In fact, it's the quarterback and the coach and the wide receiver, to use my football metaphor. But for right now, I want my job seekers to, I know there's the skills are in demand, right? People are talking about, I mean, healthcare. There's of course your digital literacy, your ability to be able to command and control this new AI. But there's another human factor. I mean, the human factor is making a comeback. We've understood when the first generation of AI came out, everybody jumped on that bandwagon and got on it. But what we're finding coming down here is that the human beings who can do some of that gray matter skill sets, we're talking about complex and creative problem solving, the ability to showcase, not just say you're responsible for something at the job, but we need proof. We need tangible proof. So your resumes and your LinkedIn profiles and all those things have got to convince someone in 8 seconds or less that you can do this thing. You've got push button talent. You've got proven performance. So not just what I think I can do, here's what I've shown. So we need those gray matter skills that only humans can do, at least right now, actually that's helping people to stand out. So yeah, get the latest certification in your industry. Sure, healthcare is in demand, right? Sure, information technology and technology skills are in demand. Sure, but if you can't communicate or you can't work with diverse groups of people, or you don't understand where you fit in the business cycle of where you're at, how your impact produces revenue or keeps customers coming back, particularly in markets like this, those folks are actually able to shine a little more and get noticed so they can get that meeting, which is also known as an interview, so they can sell their performance, accomplishments, and leadership. So I want the human being to know you're not gone. We just need you to shift, or I call it shivot, which is shift and pivot. It's a TCE word. You got to say it carefully. Shivot, right? And that can help you to stand out. But we can get deeper into some of that in a moment.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I was just having a conversation this morning with a close friend who was looking at a career transition, and they said, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out how I can make myself most applicable when it comes to
Yeah,
AI and the advancement of
yeah.
that." And we were just talking about that this morning. And I know a lot of people have had that on their minds, as you just so put it there. And so it's good to hear that they have not been phased out yet at this moment. But
Not
let's
yet.
let's take a step back here for a second. That's for people who know that they want to make a pivot.
Mm.
There may be people who are on the fence right now thinking, okay, maybe I'm not happy in what I'm currently doing or not fulfilled, whatever it may be, curious about something else. How does one even know when it is time? And is this a good time to do it?
I'll tell you, in this last couple of years, I've called it uncharted territory in the job market, or even, yes, there's some uncertain times. So, how do you know if you need to make a move? And this may be some old school tech with some new school tech, but I tell you, you got to do your due diligence and you got to pay attention. You got to read the tea leaves. Policy impacts your pockets and your pocketbooks. So when job seekers are saying to me, like, well, they're asking me, well, what's the quick fix for this? Whatever industry you're in, maybe you're in education, maybe you're in environmental, right? Environmental or energy world. Maybe you're in, again, healthcare. Maybe you're in, working in, the communication, mass comm. What has policy impacted the way your business or the services or the area where you're employed? Has it made a shift? Has it done some changes? So you've got to pay attention to that. I mean, folks in education, education teachers, I salute all of you, but we do know there's some significant policy impacts that might change how, where, and when, and how someone works. So pay attention to your industry. Definitely be a part of memberships in professional organizations so you can also know what's going on. That's whether you're from, the womb to the tomb. Maybe you're the office person answering the phone, or you're the boss making the big moves. You've got to pay attention to policy. Once you see what's going on, then the next thing is to say, okay, right now in my space, in the thing I'm doing, how is technology impacting it? How is the labor market downside and financial impacting? So what I mean is this: if a industry, let's just say my hypothetical company has always hired 50 people a year, okay, that's great. Well, now because of policy, the new ways of thinking, technology, things that have changed, I'm only going to hire 10. So I went from 50 as a common forever. I've been doing 50. Now I'm only going to hire 10. Yes, you could stress and be anxious about, oh my gosh, it's not 50. But I'm saying, how are you going to be that 10? So if you are want to be the 10, what does that mean? You got to do more. Career seekers and job seekers and career changers, you got to do more. You can't do what was normal or what's just some book you read a couple of weeks ago. You have got to really make yourself stand out. You've got to do networking. Your networking has to be uber on steroids. I'm trying to think of any other impactful word I can say. Connection with real people, because the best opportunities, even if you're changing to a new industry or you're looking for something in the same, is always going to be word of mouth. As much as I love point and click in the tech world, I know if I ask a trusted colleague for a referral or I want to share a referral, I'm not going to risk my reputation and just give a name out the box. So that word of mouth connectivity, also known as networking, big deal. So for those of us that are not doing it because we think social media means we don't have to network anymore, big mistake. You've got to still do the human connecting. You do have to find out in this time, and this is where your proper due diligence comes in, and we've got all kind of search engines out here today. What skill in your industry is still going to be resilient? That's still going to be here, and only you can do that type of research and make sure then that you're going to also be what I call a forever learner, right? You can't just know what we knew last month. We just can't, right? I mean, I just learned something new today with some things I had to do. I bought a new Mac. I had to get my Mac skills up, right? Because it changed from the time I had my old computer. So that's how we stay relevant. That's how we stay valuable. But you really, right now, with what happened last year, you've got to pay attention to the policy and how things may change, and then see where your positioning is or what you need to upskill on or unskill on to stay relevant in this industry.
You know, listening to you say this is so fascinating because I agree with every industry, even in our own. I mean, there are just so many skills that you have to constantly gather and you just got to be willing to step in and
Yeah.
learn and do. But I know when you talk to people, there is the concern that, hey, at what point am I doing too much? What point
Mm,
is a job or a job description? You look at it and you're saying they expect all of that to come from one person, even though it used to come from two, three, four, five. So maybe my
yeah.
question here is one, what's your take on that? And also, are there any red flags that people should be aware of when they're looking at a job description, when they're going through this process, particularly when it comes to what they're asking you to do?
Right. Let me take part one and let me make sure I don't forget part two because I am getting a little older these days. But part one, when is it too much? So here's what I believe that folks, anyone in the workforce wants this. We want meaningful, maintainable, and sustainable work environment, right? A meaningful, maintainable, and sustainable work environment. So we've got to make sure that wherever we're working, our vision, we buy into the vision. We believe in where we're working. I know that may sound kind of like Land of Oz, but hey, you work better when you're working in a place that you truly believe in. Maintainable, right? Can I do this? Am I now doing the job of 10 people when I used to do a job or two? Now, that's a question that only, your household, your budgets, your rent, all those things. But if you're burning it at both ends and north, south, east, and west, well, is that maintainable? Sustainable? How solvent is this company? We've seen a lot of changes. So those water cooler conversations, whether they're digital or in person, hey, look again, look at the annual report, read your corporate newsletter, look at mergers and acquisitions, see what's happening. So meaningful, maintainable, and sustainable. Those big threes, and everyone has to kind of answer that, do that math on their own. And when you think the tipping point is where it is, then you come up with a plan. You just don't quit without a plan. You have a plan. Let's see, part two. What was the second part? I'm so
I
big on
think you
that one.
answered both of
Um,
them within there.
you
Just
think,
looking at, the
well,
red flags of a job posting or,
yeah,
a
let me hit
venture
that
that you're
one. Let me
looking
hit,
at.
because there are, yeah, let me hit the red flag, because yeah, I think the hat is working again. Um, there are some scammers out here. I mean, predatory employers. I mean, when times are kind of uncertain, other folks take advantage. So red flags in job descriptions. Please make sure you're looking for bona fide. Now, if you're looking for sales or 1099 only, and you're fine with a commission and no salary, that's fine. That needs to be up front. But if you're a W-2 person looking for a bona fide W-2 job, you've got to still do your due diligence. And as much as I love some major online platforms where we're connecting and getting jobs and or getting finding job leads, you still got to do your due diligence. That's the word for 2026. You've got to do your homework. Don't trust everything you see. If it sounds too good to be true, it is, because no one's going to hire some. I mean, keeping it real. I mean, no experience, no certifications or educations. I'm going to pay you $108,000 a year, work from your home. I mean, no, that's so do your due diligence. If you see things that feel too good to be true, it is. If they're asking you to submit all your credentials, your social security number, pay for anything that you have to pay for the train. I mean, for a W-2, bona fide W-2, no. And I also want people to, even though you may have seen it on a particular website or a networking platform, go directly to the employer's website. Check them out. I mean, see if that same job is also posted on their website. Remember, one thing I learned from my physics class is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So whenever there's a third party, just be aware, but go directly to the hiring source. You can even, guess what, do a low tech thing and give a call, maybe to HR, and just kind of verify that that company is that company, and do all that before you send your resume with all your credentials and your name. And some people are still putting addresses on resumes. I'm not a fan of that anymore. But you got to do your homework because you can't trust everything you see online.
And Francino, I'll ask you this to kind of wrap up here. These are such great tips, and hopefully this will help somebody out there who is looking to retool and reshape their lives in terms of their career. But we know that there have been people who probably have been looking for a job for months, if not a year. What encouragement would you have for them in the emotional toll that has to take? And how do you weigh and kind of balance out the financials of that too in the process of looking for a new job?
Stay encouraged, have some support systems. I mean, if you meditate, meditate. If you pray, pray. It's all good, but you've got to have a support system. But you got to really have a plan. What I have seen when people reach out to us for help, they've done everything everywhere all at once. That's not a plan. But I know that when we're desperate, we'll do desperate things. So here's the thing. I mean, I challenge all of my clients to do this. Is like, listen, I want if identify the 100 places you want to work. If you can't do 100, do 30, do 50, but have a plan. Get the name of the company. Find in your networking, maybe there's a point of contact or someone you know, because again, networking is more than 50 to 60% to get that meeting. Informational interviews. If there is a company you're interested in and you want, take that extra step, do an informational interview. Ask people in your circle, hey, I'm looking for this company or access. There's a name of someone I want to get in front of. Do an informational interview with someone that's in the field. What happens is you can still submit your resume and things there. Companies this year are kind of looking at their pipelines versus all this online, job board stuff to see if who has demonstrated initiative or follow through, who has demonstrated that they will take the lead without being told to. There we have to showcase some of those human skills, not just submit the resume to 10,000 places and wonder why no one's called. That human to human one-on-one, high tech and high touch is going to be the secret sauce to do that. How do you maintain your finances while you're going through this job search? Is a job, it's a 9 to 5 job while you're looking for something. But again, look at your needs and your wants and be strategic and intentional about where you're putting your currency of your time, your talent, and your dollar. Yes, we may have to cut corners, uh, save some money on a few things, but again, think of your job search as a job. Be strategic in where you're putting your credentials. Got to do some deep dish homework, and again, we have other ways, and I blog all the time on ways people can do things to help you stand out and get some momentum in your job search on our website. So our blog is there for anyone to get some additional tips.
And I think this is a good time, Francina, as we wrap up, for you to tell the folks how they can get in touch with you, how they can get that information. Can you share the information for your website and any kind of contact
Sure.
for those who may need your expertise?
Absolutely. We're all over the internet. I mean, I'm Googleable. I love saying that, career engineer. But tcenow.com, we have a blog with lots. I mean, in fact, I put my predictions for 2026 on our latest blog. So tcenow.com, go to our blog page. We have lots of content on YouTube sharing what you can do and taking your live questions and things of that nature. So we're here to empower and encourage. Keep the faith. You got this. Our motto is don't get anxious, get prepared. So a lot of things I've said today is for you to get prepared and have that intentional plan so you can land a great opportunity, get your foot in the door for 2026. So there are 7 million job openings right now. Do the things necessary for you to be hired in one of them.
All of those job openings, you just need one. Francina, as
Just need
always,
one.
thank you. Thank you so much. We got Francina Harrison, the career engineer. You heard it from her on how you can reach out to her. She's a great, great resource here within our region and beyond, too. So, Francina, thank you as always for joining us to talk about this.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You too. Take care. Talk soon. Good to hear from Francina, also to have her right after talking with Dr. Bob McNab about the state of the Commonwealth right now.